Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see everyone. My name is Charles McClymans, and I'm the president of the Rotary Club of Madison. And thank you. I appreciate the applause. I'm glad you could all make it through the cold and snow and bear with it to come out here and be with us today. We've got a very interesting program. Today's meeting is sponsored by Nick Curran and Numbers for Nonprofits. Thank you, Nick. You have some nifty notepads on the table. You may share them and take them home with you. Nick joined us in our club in 2014, and Numbers for Nonprofits manages money with mission by providing cost-effective accounting solutions for nonprofits. He's sponsoring the meeting today on behalf of the Wisconsin Youth Symphony Orchestra. Thank you. Yep. WISO has more than 5,000 young musicians from communities throughout southern Wisconsin, and they just moved into their new building on East Washington Avenue. That'll be a new chapter in their history, right? Yep, I'm looking forward to seeing it. So thanks, Nick, for your sponsorship. Okay, today we are going to be our patriotic song. Bob Dindorf, Robert Reed, and Elaine Mishler will end Ellsworth Brown. I think the Madison Symphony Orchestra and Chorus are leading this today, right? Are leading us in Lift Every Voice and Sing.
You can see up here and sing. I have a quartet.
We're only going to sing one verse and the chorus, so please join us. It's on the screen up there, too. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Thank you.
You may be seated. Thank you to our orchestra and chorus for that. Today's guest introductions will be done by a new member. He's a pretty shy guy, but let's welcome Jason Salas to the podium.
All right. Thank you, fellow Rotarians. I'll be brief. I'm introducing all of our guests and visiting Rotarians, and so if, as I call your name, you would rise to be recognized, but everyone, please hold your applause until the end. Here we go. We have Mariam Ashibo, a guest of Peter Gray, 2022 French scholar. We have Tasrita Allen, a guest of Ashley Quinto Powell. We have Christine Benedict from the Senior Service Committee. Thank you for coming. Steve Busalacchi from the Program Committee. Steve, please stand up. Ben Camp, a guest of Scott Forrester. Nancy Daly from the Senior Service Award recipient. Thank you. Kira Johnson. Donald Dantzler's junior's guests. Thank you. Thank you, Kira. Martha Main from the Senior Service Committee. Cliff McDonald, a guest of Scott Forrester. We have Julia Miller from the Senior Service Committee. Kayla Muchka, a guest of Mary Donahue. Josh Scourin, a guest of Jen Savino. Gail Snowden from the Senior Service Committee. Rob Starbuck, a guest of Joy Cardine. Rob Starbuck, stand up. Amanda Uphoff, a guest of Scott Forrester. Thank you. Brian Woodhouse, Tammy Thaler. And Sophia Kilis, Ashley Kinto-Powell's guest as well. Let's give them all a big round of applause. They made the trip out. Thank you, thank you. You want the podium back?
Thank you.
Well done, Master.
Yes, you have to give me some WD-40. Jason, remember that WD-40 you're going to get me? All right. Today's moment of gratitude will be provided by Elaine Mishler. Elaine is a retired physician and joined our Rotary Club in 2008. She currently serves on our club board of directors, and she is a regular at the keyboard at our meetings, as you could hear today. Elaine, we look forward to hearing your moment of gratitude.
Well, thank you, President Charles. I am very honored to be standing here today in front of you to give a moment of gratitude. As Charles said, I've been a member since 2008, and I thank Martha Casey for being my sponsor. I'm not sure Martha's here, but thanks, Martha. I have gratitude for the club because it brings me friendship, ways to support my strong philosophy of service above self, and a great opportunity to learn. But today, I want to talk about why I'm grateful the club provides an opportunity to participate in music. I'm a retired pediatric pulmonologist, but also an amateur pianist, organist, and clarinet player. And I really believe that music is like a vitamin. You need some every day. Music is a total brain workout. It decreases anxiety and blood pressure and increases sleep quality and mood and mental alertness and just makes you happy. Rotary brings music into our mental space every week. Some of us like to sing, some of us don't. I always enjoy reading the comments on the annual surveys about music. Some say singing makes them happy, and they enjoy the group experience of singing together. And I am definitely in that group. So I'd like to share a couple of my special memories related to music in this club when I've been playing the keyboard. When I joined the club, we had an upright piano, which I definitely prefer. Jeff Bartell set the bar high, and we used to play 10 minutes before the meeting started. I, as a classically trained musician, pulled out some jazz, tainted by Mozart, and plowed ahead. One Wednesday, when I had played George on My Mind, again with a classical twist, I sat down and realized that Richard Davis, renowned jazz bassist at the UW, was sitting at the table. And I thought, good grief, he heard me try to play jazz. But then he smiled, and I figured, well, I guess I wasn't too terrible. We have several Rotarians in the club who are trained classical musicians, and I have had the honor to accompany them. One of them, Joe Lennis, played a cello solo. This was right before his first child was born. I don't know if he's here. I'm sure he remembers that. And Casey Alkers, we have played both piano and flute duets, and a Scott Joplin rag with clarinet and flute. One of my best experiences was playing part of the William Tell Overture and Happy Birthday on the Barton Theater organ in the Capitol Theater at the 100th anniversary of Rotary when Wes Sparkman was president. We've done fun songs like Old MacDonald, where different tables made the animal sounds, and I tell you, that's in your very near future. We're going to do that again. So, in summary, I'm grateful for these fun musical experiences. What can I do for Rotary? Obviously, continue to support the tenets of the club, but there's something you can do for me. Enjoy the singing and sing out every Wednesday with gusto when I and other musicians are playing the keyboard for you.
Thank you very much, Elaine. We appreciate the many ways you contribute to the club, especially musically. Charles Tubbs was going to come up here and give us an update on the fund drive. He was here earlier. He had to leave. So the other Charles is going to give the update. That's me. I believe we still have 20% of the club that hasn't given. That means 80% of the club has given. So thank you to the 80% of the club that has given. Charles did mention to me that he does still have his handcuffs And he may have to pay a visit to your house. But our goal is 100%. This is what we do as a club for our community. We're community leaders coming together. This is what we do. We are a philanthropic club. And so it doesn't matter the size of the gift, it just matters that you give. So I really invite everybody to participate and make that gift. We're closing out. We're going to have the big reveal of the total on January 31st, so stay tuned for that. All right, Ethics Symposium volunteers. Joyce Bromley announced last week that we're seeking volunteers for our Rotary Ethics Symposium on February 9th at Monona Terrace. We're expecting 200 high school juniors from Dane County. We hope that you will consider participating, so if you're able to do that, contact Joyce, contact the Rotary office. We're looking for some more volunteers, and it is a great experience. Jason Barron, who is leading this year's Rotary Tri-Con Convention, has a message for us. Past President Jason, would you come up here?
Thanks, President Charles. So what is this Tri-Con thing up in Green Bay, you ask? In the past, our districts each would hold their own individual conferences. But now, in Wisconsin here, we are in the third year of a long-term commitment to collaborate with the other two districts in Wisconsin to host a joint conference called Tri-Con. Our conference planning committee, which I lead this year and next, uses the vision of our three district governors. And from left to right, we have Julia from Green Bay, our very own district governor. In the center, Michelle McGrath, and Don, also wearing a kilt, from Milwaukee, to create this year's unique Tri-Con. If you don't know, our RI president is from Scotland, and that's where the kilts came from. By leveraging the three districts' resources, we can attract top keynote speakers, book better venues, offer more diverse programs, and increase the opportunities to connect. Tri-Con is an opportunity to connect with other Rotarians around the state of Wisconsin, and even a few Yoopers and Minnesotans. It's an opportunity to grow through our plenary speakers and workshops, and it's an opportunity to be inspired to serve our local and international communities. This year on Thursday night, we have a special optional dinner taking place at Green Bay's Auto Gallery, where you can enjoy viewing over 100 classic cars, supposedly even one of the first electric cars and a DeLorean time machine you see there. Our plenary speakers include a Rotary International director all the way from India, Dr. Carr, the Green Bay Packers Director of Performance Psychology and Team Behavioral Health. So he's probably lucky he's not working for the Cowboys, right? Greg Pod, an RI Foundation Director. Taylor Huey, a young rising rock star in Rotary who helped found a 400-person Rotaract club when she was in college. And our former club member, Dawn Krim, also. We have over 24 workshops to help Rotarians in themes of create hope in the world, create hope in our communities, and create hope in our clubs. This year's conference will have a special focus on mental health and well-being in line with RI President Gordon McNally's priorities for this Rotary year. At the end of the conference, we have a special workshop, QPR training, and QPR is an emergency response method to assist somebody experiencing a crisis which can save lives. And Q is for question, P is for persuade, and R is to help refer them to resources. We have Fun on Tap too, a Pound the Pavement for Polio walk with fundraising opportunities, House of Friendship, and an optional conference, after the conference, tours of Lambeau Field. And then on Saturday night, you can sign up to have dinner at local restaurants with other Rotarians. Tri-Con is not just for club leaders, it's not just for our club chairs, it's an opportunity for all Rotarians to learn from inspiring speakers about the work of Rotary around Wisconsin and the world and bring that knowledge back to Madison. District Governor Michelle McGrath and I want to invite our fellow club members to attend and also extend a special invitation to first-year members. One first-year member said it was a one-stop shop to learn all about Rotary. I want to thank Gary Tree and Mark Clear for volunteering as part of the conference planning committee. We have opportunities for sponsorship at multiple levels to give you exposure for your company to over 6,000 Rotarians in the state. And you can attend as much and as little of the conference as you'd like. Best deal is to register by the 15th of February, and you'll save almost $50 on the full conference package and meal package. There's also opportunities to volunteer, so if you're interested, please let me or the Rotary office know, and I hope to see you in Green Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for all of the work that you're doing to lead this. We would love to see a good contingent of people going from our club. I'll be attending. Pat will be, President-elect Jason. So it should be a lot of fun. And you can go on a tour at Lambeau Field. So the soon-to-be 14-time world champions, right? We hope. All right, we have a senior service guest award, and Joy Cardine is going to come up today and tell us all about it.
Hello, everyone. I am making this announcement on behalf of Joan Collins, who nominated our Senior Service Award winner today. Hats off to Nancy Daly. She has been keeping children's heads warm by making and donating fleece hats for 22 years. This is what they look like, and they keep big heads warm too. She started by sewing hats for Head Start children and quickly arranged for other women to join her in her volunteer effort. Nancy and her 40 volunteer hat ladies, some of them are here today, have made and given away more than 110,000 hats to children in the Madison region. She has worked with 25 local nonprofits, including the River Pantry, the Salvation Army, Domestic Abuse Intervention, Head Start, and Girls on the Run. Nancy is a tireless champion for Girls on the Run, a nonprofit that inspires girls to build self-esteem through running. While serving on the Girls on the Run board, Nancy mobilized her hat ladies, and they sewed and donated colorful fleece winter hats for the Girls on the Run participants to wear during their fall 5K back in 2009. The hats were an instant hit, and now every fall, Nancy and the hat ladies sew and donate more than 7,000 hats for Girls on the Run. In addition, the hat ladies sew hats at the Girls on the Run event, and they sell them to coaches and community runners who watch the hat ladies make the custom hats on site. Hat proceeds has raised $16,300 for Girls on the Run, and Nancy also introduced Girls on the Run to another service club, Who's New in Madison, which during a one-year campaign raised more than $15,000 for Girls on the Run, and that's where this hat came from. She made custom-made hats. She donated to her time and effort, and members purchased the hats, and all proceeds went to Girls on the Run. So congratulations, Nancy. Please step up to the podium as we congratulate you for your hat and your hat ladies for donating an impressive 110,000 hats since 2009 and currently sewing 7,000 hats to keep children's heads warm. Our Rotary Senior Service Award is another feather in your cap, or should we say feather in your hat. Congratulations. I was going to make Charles wear this, but...
I could use this.
Made especially.
Seriously, it's all yours.
Oh, it's great. I could use this.
It's got a name tag. Sorry.
Oh, wonderful.
All right, stay warm.
I can use this. This is great. My bald head needs this, so. These are Rotary colors. Come on. Nancy, congratulations. Thanks for all of the work that you do in the community and all of the volunteers who work alongside you. But it takes leadership also, right? Yeah, thank you. Okay, we have birthdays to celebrate with a bit of humor and wisdom that complements Rotary's mission, and we also encourage people celebrating their birthday to contribute to the Synergy Scholarship Fund. January 15th, past President Larry Smith. January 16th, Alex Vitani. January 18th, Matt Boatwright Simon. Thanks, just a few of them this week, right? Thanks to all of our celebrates for their donations to the Madison Rotary Foundation, and let's wish them a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Thank you, Elaine. I wanted to share that with our members that Frank Weinhold's wife, Mariana, passed away on January 11th. Our thoughts are with Frank and their family. And also former member Stephen Fleischman passed away on January 14th. And our sympathies go out to his wife, Barbara, and their family. Members in the news, we also have a brief list this week. Sarah Eskridge was quoted in an interview on WPR on January 15th about ranked choice voting in Wisconsin. So there you go, Sarah. All right, on to our program today. We're running on time, too, or actually a little bit ahead of schedule, so you get extra time, Maureen. Our speaker today is Maureen Busalacchi. When I asked her to pronounce her name, she said, it's like, keep your booze under lock and key, Busalacchi. So there you go. She's the director of the Wisconsin Alcohol Policy Project at the Medical College of Wisconsin, a comprehensive injury center. She has decades of experience in public health policy and systems change. She chaired the State Council on Alcohol and Other Drugs Ad Hoc Committee, which rolled out the report on how to reduce excessive drinking in Wisconsin in 2022. She currently is co-chair of Wisconsin Public Health Association Policy and Advocacy Committee, and she is a frequent presenter at state and national conferences on advocacy, systems change, and public health issues. The title of Maureen's speech is Wisconsin's Alcohol Culture, Can Dry January Help Reduce Alcohol Overuse? She's also here with her husband, Steve Busalacchi, today, who's a fellow visiting Rotarian from the Madison South Rotary Club. So welcome to you too, Steve. Maureen, we've made a donation to thank you for coming here today to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund in your honor. And we will have Q&A, time permitting, and the microphones will come to you. Let's welcome Maureen to the podium.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me today. I'm very excited to talk to you today. So as the president said, I'm at the Wisconsin Alcohol Policy Project at the Medical College of Wisconsin. I'm within the Comprehensive Injury Center. So the center overall works to reduce injury in many ways. Suicide prevention, community safety, violence prevention efforts, to reduce trauma, to deal with trauma patients. And we also know that alcohol plays a role in many of those injuries and fatalities. So the Wisconsin Alcohol Policy Project is been around since 2010. It was at the UW-Madison Law School, and 2.5 years ago came over to the Medical College of Wisconsin. Some of you may have heard of Julia Sherman, who did a fantastic job and really gave us a great base to work from here. At the Medical College, we really take a public health approach to reducing excessive alcohol use. On staff, we've got an attorney with a PhD in neuroscience, Yeah, she's on fire, and she's fantastic. And I ran Smoke Free Wisconsin and worked for 7 years at the Advancing a Healthier Wisconsin Endowment on policy and systems change. So been in public health a long time, and I forgot to add to my bio, I just was elected president-elect of the Wisconsin Public Health Association. So, yeah, thank you. So today, we'll talk about dry January. I want to share with you some of the data and harms from excessive alcohol use. I think some of us are pretty well aware of that, but it's helpful to look at some of the data. We'll talk a little bit about our culture of drinking and how dry January can play a role in that, but also thinking about bigger policy change that might be more helpful in terms of getting real significant cultural change, and what we can do. We want to, there's a lot of hope in the work that we're doing, and I'm excited to share that. So the question is, can dry January help reduce alcohol overuse? So I did some research. Which way? There we go. Okay. About dry January, and I found out the Finnish government started it during the war effort in 1942, and they did that to save resources. And it wasn't just like, the military. They asked the entire public as a way of saving money, and they found it to be very successful. It only took how many years before the rest of Europe started paying attention? So in 2011, a young woman decided to go dry January, and she was preparing for a half marathon. Her experience really changed her, and she became very involved in the change alcohol culture movement in the United Kingdom. And so then they started this campaign, and it's been branded. How many folks have heard of dry January? All right, yeah. So, it's common now that we think about it. It's really popular with young people, which is really interesting, I think, as we talk about some of the data. Hello. Thank you. So if we look at by age who participates in dry January and how likely you are to participate, we definitely see the younger generation looking at that. We know millennials are rethinking the relationship with alcohol. Some of us in the room might be Generation X or beyond, and maybe aren't as likely to look at dry January. So I think things are being shook up, right? We hear a lot more about mocktails and non-alcoholic products. There's bars popping up that don't serve alcohol at all. So there's definitely some change happening in our communities. And then if we look at who participates and how far you make it, right? In our country, it's estimated 27% of folks are looking at it. It's like over 200 million people are looking at dry January. Can I ask in this room, are people participating in dry January? We've got some. That's great. Good for you. Now, you don't always make it all the way through the month, right? So that number of those who make it all the way through the month is a little bit lower. But I think it does do many things for us, including what I listed here. You see weight loss because you're not taking in some empty calories. You might eat a little bit better. Things that we don't necessarily see ourselves, but there's been research to determine you reduce liver fat. Like, I didn't know my liver was fat, and I know that's not what it means, but that's helpful. Certainly, as a precursor to liver disease or other problems that you may have, it reduces your blood sugar. Better sleep. Many people report having more energy. I know I could use a little more energy. I like the idea of clearer skin too. But I think most importantly is really thinking about your relationship with alcohol. why are you deciding to drink at a certain time, at a certain event? And do you really want to, right? So I think it's really being thoughtful about it that is helpful. So even if you try a damp January, I would encourage you to try to abstain, certainly over a weekend, and just see how that feels. I've done it several times, and each time I enjoy it more and more, and I'm like, got to think about that, right? Just a caution, if you are thinking about abstaining, and you can join at any time, there's no clock on it, right? If you do drink heavily, it would be wise to talk to your doctor ahead of time. So I just feel obligated to make sure people are aware that there can be symptoms of withdrawal, and obviously seek help if needed. Oops. So I wanted to talk, can you, yeah, I'm sorry. There we go. So what happens after 30 days of not drinking? So for those individuals, the pro are some of those health benefits that I talked about. People talk about saving money. And when they go back to drinking, we often see that they're drinking less. So they're not drinking as many days, and they're also not drinking as many drinks in an occasion, right? So you've kind of brought it down a little bit. However, there are people that are like, yay, I did dry January, now I can go back right to it. And they end up making up for the overall alcohol consumption throughout the year. So be aware of that. And our organization really works on policy change. So this is really an individual behavior change. I think it's important. I think we have to raise awareness about this. But I also think we need to think about what have we set up in terms of our culture and our community and the standards we have around alcohol and alcohol use. So for me, that's a little bit of a con, that we also should be thinking about what are the things we can do as individuals, as community, as organizations, as business owners, and certainly our elected officials to help reduce excessive alcohol use. We see a lot of harm from it. This is a picture of Madison's Beer Fest, and I would actually say Madison's Whatever Fest. Yeah, I think the audience agrees, right? There's a lot of events we have, and I would say most have alcohol involved. And the ones that concern me the most, I mean, this is a beer fest, so I'm not going to pick on the beer fest, right? But that we don't kind of cordon off or make sure that alcohol is not just all over the place, because that's where kids get it, right? There should be some accountability. There should be some age verification that someone walking around, fair on the square or whatever, is actually of age. And we do know that modeling behavior of always having a drink in your hand every time you go to an event for our kids has an impact. So we're kind of out of the norm. Notice that Wisconsin is dark blue. What that means is that we drink more in every county in our state than the national average. So excessive drinking is 4 things. It's binge drinking, which is 4 to 5 drinks in a single setting. If you do that within a 2-hour period, your BAC is at 0.08, so you're legally intoxicated. Heavy drinking is 1 to 2 drinks every single day. Now, some of the folks in Wisconsin who drink heavily drink much more than that, but drinking every day has harm. People who are pregnant, drinking is obviously not a good idea and very harmful to them and their fetus. And underage drinking. And underage drinking has severe impacts on our kids that we kind of, some of us might have drank as kids, and it's like, well, it didn't hurt me. Actually, there's a lot of harm that happens to your brain and your developing body. So I think we know more, and so we can do better. In terms of what happens over the lifespan, we see the burden of excessive alcohol use really in the young age groups with injury is a lot of it. So this is both disability and fatality. So you get a lower lifespan and the burden of injury. So motor vehicle crashes, falls, drownings, hypothermia, all kinds of things happen when folks drink excessively. In middle age, you see more of the chronic conditions coming up. And we don't often think about cancer, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then cardiovascular disease, on the other end of the spectrum, is often what we see when there's, kind of drinking throughout the lifetime at, maybe a higher proportion, which we do as a state than the rest of the nation. I also wanted to mention our fatalities. So these are 22 numbers. So the bottom line is opioid overdose deaths. And that we are pouring a lot of money and resources to try to solve. And we should. We absolutely should do that. We're not doing that on alcohol. And if you look at the next line up, that's acute deaths from alcohol. That's alcohol poisonings, the car crashes, the drownings, all of those kinds of things. So people are dying from excessive alcohol use, but we often kind of pass that off. And yeah, I won't go there. And then the line between is really between the chronic diseases that happen. Because I know a lot of times we are, they must have an alcohol use disorder. They're an alcoholic, right? That's what we would say. But we know that even low-level alcohol use can raise your risk for many things. But obviously, liver disease, and cirrhosis being high on that list. Not to be a downer, but we are going to talk about this a little bit. So it really impacts every organ in our body. It's a carcinogen. So of course, drinking alcohol on a regular basis can impact you in many different ways. Obviously, it doesn't impact everybody the same, but you can see kind of the different organs that is related. And also, it's not a disease necessarily with your skin, but when you do stop drinking, people often notice even their skin is better, right? Oh, sorry. So I want to talk about cancer. We often don't think about alcohol and cancer, but there's 7 associated cancers with drinking alcohol, including breast cancer. It's significant, and again, it doesn't take long-term heavy drinking to, have a risk. Any alcohol use can raise your risk for cancer. So I don't think we think about that very often, but it's something we should all be aware of. And we all take risks. We all do things we're not supposed to do, run into the sun without sunscreen and, right? And so it's really thinking about what level of risk are you willing to tolerate as an individual when you think about it. And then how many have heard about drinking red wine is good for your heart? Yeah, they were wrong. Much to our disappointment. And, one of the things is it doesn't matter what type of alcohol. It's all ethanol when you break it down. And it definitely is not good for your heart health. And so that article came out of France because people are looking, the French, they live so long and so well and all of those things. But further research has completely debunked the argument, and those researchers were found to have ties with the alcohol industry. Shocking. Right? And so I think that's one myth that we have to break down. We also see the alcohol industry pinkwashing a lot of their products and, saying, we'll donate money to prevent cancer or whatever. And it's like, well, if I don't drink this, I'm going to prevent cancer in myself, certainly, right? So there's a lot of contradictory information out there, but There's been an explosion of research, I would say, in the last 10, 12 years around alcohol and its impact on us. So just, I think, good information to know. So I mentioned alcohol use disorder, and there's kind of this narrative out there that people that get involved in motor vehicle crashes or, die of, an alcohol-related disease have an alcohol use disorder. We used to say alcoholic, we now understand it better. And an alcohol use disorder is a spectrum. It's not just boom, that's it. It's not black and white. It's kind of, and so certainly if you're in the beginning stages of it, there's things you can do to stop your dependence on alcohol, which is important to think about. But the other piece that says, and this is the hopeful thing, that most of us are not dependent on alcohol that drink. It's only less than 10% of us. And so we have choices to make about the culture, both our individual and our family culture, our community, how we operate as organizations, and how we operate as as a state, as a county, as a city. Because we can change how we do things. Back when I ran Smoke Free Wisconsin, they told me over and over again, we would never go smoke-free in the bars. We did it. We made that big change, and we can make change here. And it's not about shutting down all the bars or, any of that. It's about, let's just bring this down a little bit. Let's start to normalize, kind of bring ourselves closer to the rest of the nation and then maybe improve, right? But we're so far out of the norm, we can't even tell. It's just so normal for us. And our kids know that. So in national surveys, we know that not only do our kids try alcohol, but our kids don't see binge drinking as a problem compared to the rest of the nation. So we're already inoculating our kids to kind of a heavy drinking culture. So I also think it's important as we think about dry January or a damp January or a dry, damp year, whatever you want to call it, is to really understand serving sizes. And I think this is kind of interesting. It is the most visited part of our website. So people want to know. And if you look, it's 12 ounces of beer, not 16. And it's 5%. So a lot of IPA or beer snobs, I drink something and it has a higher alcohol volume. I need to take that into account in terms of how much that I want to consume, right? Take a rational approach. Malt beverages actually cover a lot of different things, and again, that has a lower amount, I think, than most people think about. Wine, it's not a full glass, folks, for 5 ounces. And then spirits, of course, are part of that. And the U.S. guidelines right now are a drink or less a day for women, 2 drinks or less a day for men. But this is not on every day. So if you're a moderate drinker, you're drinking less than that. The science is showing lower and lower levels to be safe. There's always a risk with any. And Canada just changed their guidelines. And okay, don't laugh when I tell you what their guidelines are, but it's 2 drinks a week. Driven by science. I say don't laugh because we really couldn't have that conversation here in Wisconsin. But we can certainly do more to get ourselves back in the guidelines, that are recommended. I also just want to say a couple words, and this affects our kids as well as us. We've got branding now where Mountain Dew, you better look and make sure what you're buying, because now there's hard Mountain Dew, there's hard Arizona iced tea. There's all of these ready-to-drink cocktails. Coke has a number of them as well. So these product lines that were never associated with alcohol now have alcohol in them. And our stores sell them cold. Our gas stations sell them single-serving cold. guess what? We could change that. It's within our legal authority as a community to change that. And if you look at Four Loko, which looks like every other energy drink I've ever seen, it has 5 drinks of alcohol within that can. So not only do you not get the extra liquid, you're probably not going to take 2 hours to drink that can, right? So know what you're drinking, and also thinking about what that kind of does and says to our kids, because I can tell you those kind of drinks are not bitter, right? And they have a little fermented malt beverage, so then they're taxed like beer in our state, which is the lowest tax. It's less than a penny per can on beer. So just to give you, like, the serving sizes can be deceptive. It's something you should be aware of, and we should think about in terms of our kids. So I do want to just push you a little bit, because we do work on the policy end of things, and alcohol licensing is really important. So this whole idea about single-serving cold cans at our gas stations or our convenience stores, again, we could work and change those ordinances at the local level. There's a lot that can be done in alcohol licensing. I just have to ask, 137 underage people were found in a bar in Madison. And so they were fined a little bit. They're still operating. And I ask us as a community, is that really what we want? So I want folks to think about that. And there may be other things. I don't know the whole story behind everything that may have happened. But I just think about, in most places around the nation, that place would not be operating. So we have a lot of things that we can do. Sorry, this color looked fine on the computer screen, and it is not working here. But, participating in a dry, damp January, February, March, whatever, we encourage you to do that. I also want you to think about, with events that you have, how are you dealing with alcohol? If it's mostly cash bar, I encourage that, right? But if there's drink tickets involved, consider maybe dropping down from 2 to 1. Right? Help people stay within those guidelines. And then free events without alcohol. I think we should try to get back to some of those. I hear law enforcement actually complain to me that they have events that are set up for kids that have alcohol. Again, we have the power to change that within our community organizations, the organizations we support, to consider changing that, or at least having it where you have to wear a wristband, that there's some factor that shows that you're of age. And, like La Crosse used to have Oktoberfest, where the drinkers ran free and the families literally were fenced in. They worked for 10 years to change that. Now the drinkers are fenced in and the families run free. So we can make choices as a community and still celebrate Oktoberfest, right? As employers, also thinking about what this does to your employees. So encouraging, supporting folks that aren't drinking, encouraging, supporting events, that you hold as a workplace is a great place to start with some of that. And of course, supporting your employees that may be in treatment as well. And then we have Safe Communities here and Madison-Dane County Public Health that are doing a number of efforts on that. And so if you're interested, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction, though I think we have an expert in the room. So. So there's a number of things we can do. It does start with us and thinking about, what we're drinking, how often we're drinking, and if that's really how we want to run things. And then looking beyond ourselves and thinking about our organizations, our communities, our businesses, and going from there. So I'd be happy to take any questions. This topic never gets questions, right?
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. Would you comment on the advisability of a legal drinking age? It seems to me that by saying you can't drink until you're 21, we create a forbidden fruit, which makes it more attractive, which encourages irresponsible drinking after 21. What would you say?
The data does not share that opinion. The data is very clear that when we moved to 21, we saw decreases in injuries, crashes, fatalities of our young people, and that still holds today. So the data is very clear about that. How we handle this culturally is, I think, the bigger question, and how, the expectation of always having alcohol at every event, I think, can feed into kind of the culture that we have in terms of that forbidden fruit. But the data is really clear on that. And our brain development. There's a report that came out, that slide I had with, and everything I have on here is cited, so if you want slides, I'd be happy to share them. They are recommending that you don't drink before you're 40. That our brains are a little more protected, after you're 40, which, yes, is funny. But, yeah.
Thank you for this. There is such a large social burden that is placed on our entire communities. We have police, first responders, who are consistently responding to alcohol-induced events. And I'm curious, are you seeing any willingness to do something different around the taxation so that there can be additional funds that can go toward education, prevention, and treatment?
That's a great question. I've run tax campaigns around tobacco in the past. My assessment, and based on conversations, I don't think we're quite ready for that, but we're doing a number of things to try to bring more information and knowledge about what's happening. So we're encouraging a statewide practice of place of last drink, so that anybody who is arrested by law enforcement, or stopped, I should say, not arrested before they're arrested, be asked where they were when they had their last drink. That is not a means to go after that location, whether it's a bar or whatnot. It's more a means of, you're consistently over-serving over a 6-month period, and we need to have a conversation, right? That's the point of it. And when we look at the data, we know that some of the data doesn't include the OWI, the blood alcohol level. And so I know that the traffic safety commissions and the DOT are working much harder on trying to get that, so that we understand the level of alcohol use within our records right now. Those efforts are begging the question about an alcohol tax. So I think as we continue to build and have people understand, again, this isn't about stopping drinking or putting people out of business. This is about just let's bring it back. Let's get a little bit calmer about how we're doing this. And then I think over time, we can certainly have the alcohol tax conversations.
State politically, but that dark purple with regard to drinking is quite disturbing. And my question is, and is something as a retired physician I should probably know, do the health statistics follow the deep purple color on your map? Do we have more?
Yes.
Do we have more alcohol-related illness in the state of Wisconsin?
I've looked at a number of different numbers. The one that stuck out to me is liver transplants, and we're 5th highest in the nation, and we are nowhere near the 5th highest population in the state. We're usually around 25th. So when we look at that, yes, we do see that on most charts and numbers. We do see Wisconsin much higher. Our treatment facilities that are used for alcohol, again, are much higher than opioid or meth or cocaine or those other drugs. And again, I see people just not paying attention to that information. We'll work on some others, but they don't, it's so ubiquitous, it's almost just kind of pushed to the side.
I have a question about policy. First of all, the number of people who have been arrested for drunken driving a number of times, and they still are able to get a driver's license, that is something that's seriously to consider. The other thing is a broader policy. If you go to buy birthday cards, for instance, for somebody our age, it is amazing how difficult it is to buy a card that does not relate to fun and alcohol over a birthday. So Hallmark should be watching for you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Susan?
That you had, Joy? A question? Are you going broader than the grassroots?
Our specialty is actually working on policy. So we support communities as they make changes. Licensing is done locally for the most part. And then with this big state change in regulations, we're doing a number of educational things to help make sure that local communities know what changes they have to make in order to deal with the really the deregulation of the alcohol industry in our state. I don't know about Hallmark. That might be tough. But there isn't, we're part of a nationwide group that is working on this, and it wasn't happening before. So the American Public Health Association has an alcohol action team, and that we meet and work on a number of things. And there's definitely big research centers that do good work. We're trying to also create a research center here in Wisconsin, which we don't have, that's dedicated to alcohol.
Is there time for one more?
Nope. Okay, sorry.
Thank you so much. But we do have, I believe that you've agreed to stay afterwards. We're going to have one of our first talkback session. It will be held on the lower level in the Fairchild Room. So Maureen, you can ask all kinds of questions. Thank you for being here with us today to talk about this very important topic. It's very interesting. The data is very revealing. So, but if you have more questions, please go down to the Fairchild Room on the lower level, and you can continue the conversation. I hope you'll join us next week when we will hear from Ruth Schmidt, who will talk with us about the case for solving childcare. Public investment has returns for children, the workforce, and thriving communities. So, hope to see you all again next week. With that, we will stand and recite the Rotary four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? We are adjourned. See you next week.